Welcome back to Moonlight Ponderings, everyone. This is Ronnie Moonborn.
And Severine Nocturne.
And we're continuing our little questionnaire that we had started. This is part 2.
Okay. So, let me load up the questions.
Loading up the questions.
Okay. So... who are your patron gods, if you have one?
So, my first one, and it took a while for me to identify with any patron god, but my first one was Apollo, and then I do a lot of work with Greek gods, and it was Hecate or Hecate, however you prefer to say it. Say her name, excuse me, Selene, moon goddess, and Artemis. And here lately, Dionysus as well.
Cool. Well, my patron is Melik Taus, who I don't know if you guys can hear Bellamy in the background.
Should be alright.
So Melik Taus is technically considered Dionysus by some people. I mean, I kind of identify him as both, so.
We share one, I guess.
And yeah, technically, I've always also worked with Nylara, but I really haven't had her speak to me here lately. So I don't know if we're just like, there's nothing to do together or what have you. So yeah, those are mine. Ooh. What's the scariest experience you've ever had that's witchy related?
When there was an entity in your house, I think. It's my first real paranormal experience, I feel like.
That was kind of both of our scariest moments, to be honest.
Because we were going through a house shortly after a hurricane had happened, and something just felt wrong about the house. Mm-hmm. And we had been in it before and it felt fine, but there was something wrong. We go upstairs to her bedroom, and as we're leaving out, I felt something kiss me. And it did not feel welcomed. And then we did some meditation on it, and we found that there was a dark entity, and we had to banish it.
It was crazy. And scary. I guess one that I can add is, and I think I've talked about the light that fell off the window on the channel before, haven't I?
I don't remember, but go ahead.
Okay. So, when Firechild and I were living together, she had this candle. It's not really a candle, it's a light that's supposed to look like a candle. And it suction cupped to a window. And I was sitting in the living room in a completely different room. And I hear something fall. And it's this candle. And it's on the floor. And I thought, because it was kind of around the time that the seasons were changing, I was like, well, it's probably just that, the pressure did it or whatever.
You try to rationalize things at first because you don't want to go, oh, that's a spirit.
Well, you shouldn't be like, oh no, the wind moved. It's clearly a spirit trying to speak to us. That shouldn't be your automatic thought, I think. I mean, if that's what works for you, it's what works for you. But I'm critical when it comes to things like that, because not everything is a spirit. But in any event, I figured out that it wasn't gonna probably stay back on the window, so I just sat it still on this side table. Went back to doing what I was doing. I hear something fall. I go in there. It's on the floor again. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. Maybe it's not stable. So I literally turned it over on its side and sat it on the living room in the couch, or like on the couch, so it wouldn't. Well, not the living room, the den, because we had the couch in the den and we had the couch in the living room. So the light was in the den. I sat it on the couch that the couch that was in the den. And I walk out, went to work. Firechild messages me and asks me why the light is on the floor towards her bedroom, kind of, sort of.
Oh no. So that means it had to take some force to get it to fall.
So, and I don't have an explanation for that other than we're pretty sure it was an entity and we had to banish that one too.
Your house is haunted. I truly believe that at one point. Like, maybe not necessarily by malicious spirits, but by mischievous spirits, because y'all had money missing from that house. Mm-hmm. Things appeared in your house that you had no explanation for being there. Mm-hmm. And the logical explanation, hello dear, is that someone was coming into your house also. And that's horrifying as well. That's just like, either way, this is not a win-win situation. Like,
now that we're not living there, maybe that should be a story time. I think I might make that a story time, the time that we thought someone was
in the house.
So, on that one. Okay, so next question. What are some stereotypes that you've had directed towards you about your practice?
Okay, there's been a few. And I feel like they weren't necessarily to be malicious. It was more so out of ignorance. Like, someone's like, so you worship the devil? And I'm like, no. And then it was like, so you're like Harry Potter? And it's like, no.
I think that's probably my big issue, is that stereotypically people just don't take you seriously. They think you are like living in this fantasy world where you can shoot lightning out of your hand. And
people asking me, I dreamed this, this, and this, so what does that mean? I don't know.
Or people ask you, like, can you do a spell to get me money? Or things like that. It's kind of like, instead of a witch, they see you as a genie. Like...
First of all, there was a spell to get rich that worked like that.
Right?
Would I be like... Don't you think I would have used it already? Like...
Sometimes I think people ask you to do it just so they can prove you wrong. Like, I think that's what it is. And,
And it's like, I'm not all about the spells. Like, it's more of a spiritual connection for me than anything.
What do you love and hate about portrayal of witchcraft in books and movies?
So, I just recently watched this movie on Netflix called The Witch Files, which did a more so accurate portrayal, a little bit of like early Salem witches' beliefs. And at first, spoiler alert, the movie made it go like, oh, one of the girls just gets mad with power. But no, you find out, no, it's the one that introduced them to the witchcraft that's the evil one all along. So I was just like, of course, one stereotype, witchcraft is evil.
Yeah. It is very, it's either that it's very demonized or it's fantasy realm, I think would be what I would say. And it's not, I like fantasy. I like, like Harry Potter.
Yeah, I love Harry Potter.
I love Sabrina. I mean, like, I love Charmed, The Craft, all that stuff. But it is not accurate representation. And I mean, there's a lot of things that are probably not accurate representation, so I feel like harping on that, like, if they did it completely accurate, it would probably bore people, so,
It's more just like, pick your battles. Like, I feel like if they were just like, this is what they really do, then I'd be a little more offended. But it's Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, in general, pop culture is not an accurate representation of many things. It's just like watching based on a true story movies. You know that, like, most of it is kind of dramatized or whatever. They have to make it entertaining. Like, you have to give them some leeway with that.
And for example, I was watching, without giving out the name, but a critic who reviews movies on YouTube, and he did Patch Adams, and I at first didn't remember that it was based off a true story, but then I was like, oh yeah, that was, but then you find out that, like, they took extreme liberties with this movie. Well, you're just like, ugh.
That same critic has some very specific views about the Pearl Harbor movie, so...
But yeah, that's what I said. So, like, when it comes to, like, based on true life, you know, take it what it is.
Yeah, like, you have to give some leeway. Obviously, yes, if it's so far out and takes away from the meaning, then I think definitely be offended. But in general, like, I'm not offended by the portrayal. I will say it does kind of harm for people that don't know any better, but you know, if you just try to be patient with people, most of the time they'll listen and hear you out. So,
and at that, what's the next question?
What is your favorite form of divination and why?
Tarot, for me.
I knew.
It's just, it feels very organic to me. I don't know. I really identify with tarot cards, and I really jive with them.
Crystal gritting? Probably.
Well, you like oil drips too, don't you? Like,
and astral travel. I like doing water scrying sometimes. I love scrying in general. And I think it's because, like, when I look at things in general, you know, like, if I'm sitting there and I'm bored and I'm looking up at the sky, I'm gonna see shapes. So I think that kind of speaks to me in that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Quick answer to that one.
That one was a quick answer. How have you grown since you first started practicing?
I am a calmer person for the most part, I think. And I do think we've talked about this in previous videos, but I truly do believe that I handle my anger in a much more healthier aspect now. And that change hasn't really happened until, like, last year or two ago for me. Because maybe I'll have a story time about how my life is the way it was, but I've had some dark things happen in my past, and I've had to come to terms with that, and this kind of helped me come to terms with that, like going on a spiritual journey and astral traveling to kind of help with that.
I feel like I don't ever want to stop growing.
Yeah, I never think I'm done. Like, I will never consider myself.
I mean, I think that you have to be willing to grow in order to get what you need. Because, I mean, it's just like seasons. Life is never the same. 10 years from now, we'll be in different places than we are right now. And that's healthy. You know, that's growth. So, but what I would say that I feel like I've grown the most in is also dealing with my anger and communication. I used to be a much more is meek the right word?
You used to you were anti-confrontational, is what it was. You would, as we like to say, Miss America everything.
And it was just that, like, I didn't like confrontation. And I still don't like confrontation, but I'm willing to be confrontational if the situation calls for it.
You used to bottle up your feelings all the time.
Yeah.
Like, she'd be like, I'm not trying to be mean when I say it or anything like that, but you know that thing 6 months ago? And, like, you'd be like, What thing 6 months ago? I don't even remember it. Well, yeah, that hurt my feelings, or I'm mad about that. And I was just like, but can you still be mad at that person from 6 months ago? If, like... But I mean, like, but you have grown. I've seen that growth. But I mean, I was just as bad because, like, I would just hold grudges and not say anything. And I would never bring it up. I'm fine. But I'm being a dick to him.
I feel like with both of us that we probably kind of learned, like, well, man, this didn't work because you find out later the person you were upset about, it was a miscommunication of some sort. And then it's like, you could have been resolved and been continuing to be friendly.
Or feel better at least, you know?
Like... So, yeah, I definitely think there's some growth, and a lot of it has been shadow work, you know, and it's hard to admit that you have fault, because we have pride, we just do, you know, like, nobody wants to admit that they have issues like that.
I think it was the opposite for me, though. I feel like I put myself down so much.
Yeah.
And, like, I would just lash out at people because I was really mad at myself.
It's easier to lash out at people than it is to admit when you're like, and I mean, because I do it, so I'm not, you know, like...
Again, I feel like this is something else to touch on later, but,
like, that's what I would say is probably grown the most, you know, is realizing my own faults and accepting them, and also coming to terms with the better ways to deal with it. So anyway, do you feel that anything in your practice should be private? If so, what and why?
Just depends on how personal, like, a spell is or something like that, or...
Like, if
I were to engage in sex magic.
Yeah, that was where I was going. I was like, we don't do it. I mean, I've done, like, a masturbation spell before, but I don't know that we really have, like, included other people in that kind of a thing. I haven't. I mean, I think that would kind of be a private, intimate thing. Sometimes astral is private and intimate, depending.
I won't do spells with people I don't trust. I will say that. Like, in general, I won't practice a spell or a ritual or anything like that. If there's people I feel aren't going to be respectful about it.
Yeah. What are some pet-friendly herbs and oils that you like to use?
You have to be really careful about that, I feel like.
You do.
I know, like, some oils are acidic. So, like, we don't like to use anything citrus that could be consumed. Like, if it's going to be mixed into something that we're afraid the cat might get into, because we actually have to worry about that.
Yeah. Sage is pretty safe.
Catnip, of course, is...
Catnip. I would say it's probably easier to pick ones that you know to avoid, because for the most part they're pretty okay. Like, lemon and orange scents, they're not really good with, like, they don't like them.
But it's not going to hurt them.
It won't hurt them to smell it, but they're probably not going to be in that vicinity.
So, like, if you have one that's a familiar and it's present for your spell work, you might want to do some research and avoid using those herbs, I would say.
And lavender's bad.
Lavender actually hurts for cats, their nervous system a little bit. So, if you're going to use lavender, either do it in a diffuser, I would say, or burn very little of it. Like, don't douse your coal in lavender or something.
So that's... I can't, like, as far as my research goes, I mean, obviously, when we sit down, we decide what we want to use, I will look. Because
these are questions for your veterinarian, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good question because, I mean, like, we definitely look. But those are the ones off of the top of my head I know you should not use if you're working with your pet. If you're in a private room or whatever, I mean, like, I don't see really that there would be a harm as long as they can't get in there or they're not going to.
I would just keep in mind if you're planning on having your pet or familiar present for the spell, keep in mind what could irritate them. Yeah. And research it.
And honestly, even though those are the ones off of the top of my head, I will still look. I'll still go on and be like, yeah, I'm not wrong about that, right? Because she's priority to me. So that's just, I think that's a safe practice. You should always look, double check, even if you know off the top of your head. You should double check. So let's see. Would you perform a spell or tarot reading for someone who wanted it purely for entertainment?
I have. I need them to be respectful about it, is all.
Like, obviously, if they're coming in and they're like, oh, this shit's not real, blah, blah, blah.
Well, no, I'm like, no, I'm sorry,
the energy's not going to be right. And I'll tell them that. I'll be like, if you don't believe in this, there's no point.
Now, that being said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Oh. Go ahead.
And not even so much believing in it. If you can't possibly take this seriously, then there's really no point. Like, it's okay if you want to do it for fun, but if you're going at it in a mocking way, then it's kind of pointless.
I will say though, if you're paying me, and that money came in, then I'm like, all right, you paid me. So.
If you've paid me to,
I'm gonna put my seriousness in it, but I mean,
if you paid me to give you a shit reading, then I'm gonna do it. But
it's your money.
I'm gonna tell you that if your energy's wrong, then it's not gonna be effective. And that's all I can do. Have you ever experienced prejudice or witch phobia?
I've had people tell me they don't think it's real.
That's the big thing I've had.
I don't know if that's the same, but
I've not really had anybody that's like, I can't be friends with you.
Oh, actually no. I was talking to someone potentially dating, and they didn't like that, so they quit talking to me. But I'm like, that's a big part of my life, so I was like, if you can't get past that, then I guess I can get past you. Mm-hmm. Bye.
I mean, you should never compromise who you are for another person.
Nope.
Do you consider what you do with deities using them or working with them?
Working with. I don't think they would want to interact with you if you were using them.
Yeah, I don't really see deities as a tool. Would I say that it's worship? No. I don't worship Melik's house. We work together.
I might honor, I would say, but not completely worship.
He definitely has space and dominion in my room. I have things that are there to encourage his presence or kind of be gifts, but I don't see it as I'm not sitting there praying to him or things. We speak, but it's not what I would consider the Christian idea of what you do when it comes to dealing with God. So, but using is kind of gross. You should never just use somebody for a spell. That just sounds
dirty.
Yeah. Have you ever invoked a deity or other spirit?
What do you mean by invoking? Is my question.
Invoking would be like...
They possess you? Or...
Yes.
No. The answer is no.
I've never done that.
I don't know if you heard our phantom just answer that question for us. But...
No, I've never done it, and I would not be possessed.
I don't like losing control of my body. I don't drink to get drunk, because I feel like I'm not in control of my body then. I I'm not anti-drug, but I don't partake in them. Just because, again, I don't like the feeling of not being in control of my body. So that's a hard pass on me.
Mm-hmm. This one's for you.
For me?
Mm-hmm. Ronnie, why do you
Yes.
consider yourself a witch and not a warlock?
It's just because witch sounds better, to be perfectly honest. Warlock has such a negative connotation to it. And I feel like witch just means a person of magic to me.
Mm-hmm.
Would be my personal definition. Those of you who want to call yourselves warlocks, call yourselves warlocks all day. Be you. But I like the term witch.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak on that because I'm a lady, so I can just be called witch. But I've
Why don't
read...
you call yourself a sorceress?
Maybe I do. No. I've...
In the bedroom.
But I've read about men taking the term back before, so I think it just
Well, it's called witchcraft. It's not called warlock craft, so...
I mean, I think it's about how you want to, like, do you want to see it as a gender neutral term, or do you want to see it as a, you have to separate thing, and I'm indifferent, so...
Well, and I feel like back in the day it was used to demonetize women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Alright, Bellamy.
She sounds like a turkey, y'all. Do you have any tips or advice for a closet witch who wants to practice in secret?
Just say you like to burn incense and you like to light candles.
I mean, that's pretty much it. When Ronnie and I were not living together, Firechild and I made him a travel altar so that he could, like, put it in a box and, like, when he wanted it out, it could be out. But when it was not...
It could be easily to hide, put
Yeah.
away.
Which, I mean, to be honest, like, we're kind of in an in and out position already, so a lot of things that are witchy are kind of in plain sight, but you don't know what it's for.
Like, my parents know that I like to collect crystals.
Yeah.
They know that I like incense. I feel like they know. I mean, like, I just don't go out and say it. But, well, I mean, and I don't feel like they need to know. Because it's a personal thing. It has nothing to do with them. And
there are certain things that kind of just, and I mean, it's not even just because of the parents. It's also like, we could have friends that are not really into it either. And you want to be kind of like in mind of that. And
well, there's witchy decor that I just am not crazy about because it's like bam in your face. And there are certain things about witchy decor that do make people nervous, and I understand it because I used to feel that way. Like seeing a pentacle.
There are no pentacles. No pentacles around the house. I mean, I have a...
There's one on my motor and pestle, but I mean...
I have a fairy star in my room, but it's 7 points. I'm sure that someone will probably automatically think if they were to see it, but it's not where you would just be like, bam, in your face.
Yeah, we have crystals out.
Our tarot cards are not out because that's pretty obvious too.
Our calendar's a little weekend-y looking, but I mean...
Well...
it could just call it a fantasy calendar and be done.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to automatically know. There's really not. That's the main thing. Just get good at hidden in plain sight type things. Have a special box designated for stuff that you can put stuff in and, you know...
Get not so incriminating things, like tarot cards would probably be the most incriminating thing you could own, I think.
Yeah.
So you would just have to be clever about that.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate enough my parents didn't go in my room like that because I was an adult.
If you have parents that go in your room, that's kind of difficult. You definitely don't want anything incriminating. You don't need tarot cards. You don't need I mean, you might feel like you need it for your practice, but if you're having to also balance your life,
there are some sacrifices.
Like,
I feel
there's some like so like my thing with that is like
prioritize your life.
You need to kind of have a place to live more than you need witchy items. So if any of that is going to put you at risk of getting kicked out of your home, you could do a spell simple. Like, all you need is like a piece of paper and maybe a candle. You don't have to even have the candle. You can just have the piece of paper, write down what you want.
And I would like to say, for those of you who are having to live in secret like that, we are here for you.
Yes, please.
You can message us and we'll talk to you.
Definitely. Have either of you used the Lenormand deck?
I don't know what it is, so my answer is nope.
I've heard of it. That's it. I've heard of it. No. And I wouldn't be opposed to learning, so maybe that'll be a question we can answer later after we've
had some experience with it.
Yeah. What is your favorite Sabbat to celebrate? Samhain.
It's probably the only one we celebrate, really. I mean, I think we do Yule.
Yeah.
And we might do...
We've done Mabon one time.
Yeah, so... Any of the eating ones where it involves a lot of eating.
Well, they all technically probably involve eating, but we've only really done... I think Samhain's just kind of like a traditional... We have to do something, usually, so... Severine, how did you come up with your idea for the cosmic trending art? So, originally... I was thinking about how I was doing a lot of research, and it was talking about that your astrology or your astrological signs, where certain aspects are in your star chart, can kind of suggest like fashion trends and things like that that are good for your personality and who you are and your physicality. And I was gonna like actually make it a publication, but it was too much. It was gonna be too much information to have to finagle in together. So then it just kind of became an art project of, you know, seeing if I could apply the information into an actual still image, and trying out colors and things like that and outfits that really suit people. And so yeah, my friend Jaspera, who I do Witchitude with, suggested the video idea to me actually, and I was like, oh man, that would be so cool. Like do it as a series so people can actually see the process behind it. I mean, she was the one that came up with the idea, and I was like, that would be amazing. And so
teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah. I feel like I don't like how I talk some of the time. Because I'm just sitting there like, so yeah, I'm doing this. And this is why.
Yes.
But anyway, so that's it. Those are the questions.
Alright guys, if you have any more questions that we have not answered and you would like, leave a comment below and we will put together maybe another video and do some more questions. I think we might revisit our 20 questions a piece that we were going to ask. I think that would be fun to do.
That would be fun to do.
So, because our answers probably have changed somewhat.
Yeah.
But I guess until then, we'll see you guys next time. Stay magical.